pony knowledge by. Oh, better. I got a place where winning ain't tough to do. You wanna be cool, stable do. Your horse racing fantasy come true. But no, stable do.
Download the Stable Duel app and play today.
Hope everyone's having a very nice week as we get set for another fun Stable Duel weekend. These horse racing weekends now for the next 4 or 5 months or so. It's like every weekend there's another big weekend. And even for us this weekend, as we'll be focusing in on Gulfstream, Santa Anita, little Laurel Park. There's also a huge weekend at Fairgrounds with the Lecomte and a Kentucky Derby prep. We won't have any Stable Duel games for those, but those races will be on our radar definitely as horses continue to take their steps towards the Kentucky Derby. We've got Matt DeSantis here. We've got Barry Spears, the sniper. Good morning, Barry. How we doing on this Friday morning?
Thawed out. It was cold, man. It was cold
chilly
here in Florida. It was like under 40 overnight a couple of days, and I was not liking it. My body hurt, but we bounced back. It's 80 degrees today, and kind of back to normal. So I'm feeling good.
Every time Matt hears Barry and I talk about us being cold, Matt just laughs and goes, "The sons of bitches." Just under his breath as we check in with Matt DeSantis. How are things going with you, buddy?
Things are going great, man. And it hasn't been that cold. I actually did feel bad for Barry. Iguanas were falling from trees, all sorts of crazy shit happening down in Florida. So no, it's nice. And we're going to have a nice card at Laurel on Saturday, and the weather looks to be nice. It's going to be crisp. It'll be in kind of mid 40s, but no rain in the forecast. And so it should be nice conditions for those races on Saturday.
For those of you who may not have joined us before, maybe you're seeing this stream for the first time, what we're going to do here is we're going to get you set up with some of our best bets for Friday and for Saturday for a couple different tracks. These are all tracks that will have a Stable Duel contest for the day that we're talking about. And we're also always going to be giving you horses that are prices here. We're always going to be looking for horses in the 5-1 range and above, because we understand the way that racing works. Sometimes horses get bet down. And if we're all coming out here giving you the top choice or the second choice in any race, what kind of real help does that do for you? So we want to really have a different approach every week. You know that some weeks we may not have quite as many winners because we're taking bigger shots, but you always know you're going to be getting significant prices when you tune into this show with us. We'll always take a look at the daily racing form too, and we're going to pull up the past performances right now from drf.com. We'll dive into those formulator PPs, and we'll start with Barry's neck of the woods, with Barry's home over at Gulfstream Park for Friday. So Matt, as I pull up the Friday past performances, why don't you tell us what contests we have available for Friday that we could play for Stable Duel?
Yeah, absolutely. So we got a few different contests today down at Gulfstream Park. We have a $5 top 10 game with a $400 pot, limit to 3 entries. So if you're just wanting to get started, maybe you don't want to, spend too much money in a contest, you got a $5. You also have a $50 triple up, where the top 33% of entries will get $150 back for that $50 entry fee. So that's always a fun one to play. Also have a $25 game down in Tampa. And then out in the West Coast today, we actually have a free ride, which is always a lot of fun out at Santa Anita. I think there's already 180 people signed up for that. So it's always a lot of fun to get folks engaged in that. So Santa Anita free ride, $100 of real money. You don't have to pay anything. So if you really think you have a good handle on that Santa Anita card, go for it. And then there's also a $30, $1,200 pot entry out at Santa Anita tonight as well.
That's the thing. If you are someone who maybe you don't have the biggest bankroll all the time, right? Everybody has different, that's for me, money amounts are always irrelevant when I see people like posting bets and stuff, because what's $2 to someone is $2,000 to someone else, right? Mm-hmm. That's irrelevant to me. What's important is the handicapping, the analysis, the horses that you find. And if you are someone who loves racing, you wish you could play a little bit more, you just don't quite have the funds at this time period in your life, Stable Duel is a great game for you because you could download this app for free. You could put yourself in 10 or 20 bucks sometimes, play in a bunch of different games. And if you just watch for all the free games, there are going to be at least a couple of these every week, Matt, where you can play in these games, get action on a full card, not even have to spend anything. Then if you win, you get 10 or 20 bucks in your account. Then you can go play a couple others. So it really does help you if you're looking for an opportunity to get action all day or on a full card for a limited amount of funds. This is something that should be right up your alley.
Absolutely. No, I mean, today is a great day. For instance, you can think of it this way, that $5 contest down at Gulfstream Park is a limit of 3 entries, but for $15, you can enter 4 different contests. You could do 3 entries at Gulfstream and a free ride at Santa Anita. And it's hard to put together a pick sequence that's going to be cheaper than $15. So, it's a fun way to play a full, 2 full cards at 2 really big tracks across the country. And a lot of fun to just, from race to race, track how you're doing, track how, other people are doing, following along, that sort of thing. So always a lot of fun. And, the salary cap requirements of Stable Duel are what makes this show so much fun because you got to find value. You got to find those long shots. And that's what we try to do every week.
Yep. Forces you to be more creative as a handicapper. But like for me, I'm just a numbers guy, so like we've talked about this before. Some days I just get lazy in my handicapping. And like at Gulfstream Park on Friday, I just was like, you know what? Race 1, number 1, I'm just going to stop right there.
Yeah.
That's all I need to do. I don't even need to go any farther. I'm looking at this opening race at Gulfstream on Friday. There is very little speed in this race. Very little early speed signed on in this race. I'm looking at the Cozon 1 with Luis Saez jumping aboard, getting a huge jock upgrade. This horse is getting Lasix for the first time, and they're trying turf. Now, I don't know, and I don't think this horse is necessarily like overwhelmingly bred for the grass where it's going to just like smack you in the face with all these direct siblings. But this is just more of a inside stretching out, not much other speed. This horse has actually shown legitimate sprint speed in multiple races. And I'm just going through the rest of this field. I mean, the 4 Shockwave sat a couple lengths off a pace going 25 and change and 50 and change. And other than that, we have O Gangster, who one time showed a little bit of positional speed, and that's about it as far as proven speed. Blue Maverick from the outside is stretching out from a sprint, so we'd imagine they'll probably be forwardly placed from the outside there. But I really think the game plan for this one from the inside draw has to just be send really hard. So for me, race number 1, the Cozon 1, who is 6-1 on the morning line. Didn't have to go far to find my first play of the day for Friday. But Maddie, I think you also have one in race number 1 for today. Talk to us about your play.
I didn't have to go much further because I have number 2.
There we go.
Hey? 1, 2. We're making this pretty easy. So number 2, Ponte Pride at 8-1 on the morning line, only going to cost you $3,000 in Stable Duel. Here's the thing about this horse, impeccably bred for the turf. I mean, this is an absolute turf horse, and ran maiden special weight first time out. I would, if you could, Gino, could you pull up the head-on replay of this one? Because it, sometimes in the racing forms, exchange bumps early. If you check out this head-on, the 5 is Ponte Pride, and just watch this 5 get, boom. And then don't worry, there's more to come because you get that bump. And then just when you think like, oh, he's done getting bumped, like, no. And then a bump and just, he just keeps getting kind of knocked around down there on the kind of inside rail. And you're muted, Gino, by the way, just FYI. But
it happened from on 3 different horses too.
Yeah.
Like it happened. He got hit and then backed up and then hit another, and then another horse squeezed it back like 3 different times.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, so, and for a young horse making a debut, that's really kind of what I wanted to show. And
that's all you need to see.
Yeah. That's kind of all you needed to see. And the reality is, think of it this way. Ponte Point is 8-1 on the morning line. Ran a buyer speed figure of 49 the first time out. We saw the trouble that he had out of the gate. If you scroll down a little bit to the favorite in this particular race, who I believe is the number 4, actually, I think. Shockwave at 3-1. Shockwave kind of had a perfect trip last time, ran a 55, and had no excuses and didn't win. So I'd much rather take a horse that had a troubled trip, that has good breeding, that has a good barn, as well. That, Christopher Davis is winning 23% of his entries to this point. He and Jose Ortiz, when they team up, are winning 31% of the time for a $3.95 ROI. Gino, you and I always joke. How would you like a deal where I give you $2 and you give me back $4, basically?
Sign me up for that, Matt. Any day of the week.
So
Sign me up.
I just think there's a lot there. And 8-1, again, a good stable dual play. I think for only $3,000, I think this horse, you're going to see significant improvement in race 2.
So Matt and I both on a couple right off the bat on Friday in race number 1. So for Friday, I'm going to lean a little later to race number 6. It looks like Barry has the 6th race also. But Matt, I think you have one in the 4th race on Friday, which is a mile on the turf. Talk to us about this 4th race and where you're headed.
Yeah, so maiden special weight, 84,000, mile on the turf, as you said. And I'm going to go with a bit of a swing here. And the number 2, Tiz Eternal, who is coming off over a year layoff and is 15-1 on the morning line and is only going to cost you $500 in stable duel. So this is an extremely inexpensive horse. Barry, note inexpensive. And so the very inexpensive horse. And what I want everybody to do is just look at who this horse ran against in debut. Yeah. This horse ran against Classic Causeway, Trafalgar, and Brigadier General in its debut. That's a really good threesome to run against. I mean, Classic Causeway is a graded stakes winning horse. Obviously, it was on the Derby Trail. Trafalgar's come back.
I played Trafalgar in the Lecomte last year.
Yeah, and Brigadier General's a very nice horse as well.
Yep.
Who's come back and run a bunch of really nice races. So they clearly had a lot of expectations for this horse initially. Hasn't run since September of 2021. Now coming back, like I said, almost 16 months later, moving this horse onto the turf. But those turf works look spectacular that they've been running down at Palm Meadows. And so you're looking at a bullet 59 flat 5 furlong, a bullet 47 flat 4 furlong. I mean, this horse clearly has taken to the turf. This is a $300,000 purchase. This horse has expectations and has talent. I'm gonna take a shot here and just say this is a horse that had a lot of class, a lot of expectations, coming back on a new surface for a trainer who I like Barclay tagging this sort of a spot. And so we'll see what this horse has, but inexpensive play in race 4 for me.
Yeah, and you're kind of getting a little makeover package here too, right? You get a first-time gelding, a first-time Lasix. Feels like they're really some really nice works for this horse coming into this race. Like they like this horse and they're hoping for and
they didn't drop the horse in class. That's kind of what I also like. It's still a maiden special weight, 84,000. So they're and a big time track. So they're not like moving this horse to Hawthorne in a $32,000 claimer or something like that. They're keeping this horse in good company. So I think that says something.
Tiz Eternal at 15-1 will only cost you $500 in your stable dual lineup, and this is a great pick 4, pick 5 type of horse to help make a big day for you. That's for Matt in the 4th race at Gulfstream Park on Friday. Barry is going to pick us up right next door in race number 5. My man Sniper will go 7 furlongs on the dirt. Talk to us about this 5th race.
Yeah, it's a 7 furlong optional claimer, 50,000, start allowance 50,000. So you're going to get some really hard knocking horses in a race like this. And you're going to have to kind of follow me here because
leave out some breadcrumbs, Trey. Leave out the breadcrumbs.
Yeah, because
what did Whoopi say? I will follow you wherever you may go.
So you got to follow me with this pick here. All right. So I see on paper, a decent amount of speed. You have the 7 Olga, who probably will have to get out and go. The 6 Nucci will probably want to get out and go. I mean, that horse has, ran on a sloppy track and then a turf event on January 12th. But on the fast main track, that horse went to the lead and won. You got to have to think that horse is probably going to try to go and be well placed early. Same thing with number 5, Tribute. I think that horse has some speed here. Now, the 4, Pachanga Loca, you see the trainer, Fausto Gutierrez. I have a feeling that this horse is in here just as a rabbit to keep the pace honest. 4, the horse I ended up picking, number 1, Carla Tuck. This horse, Carla Tuck, has some races back at Indiana and Colonial that fit right well with these. Came off a decent layoff since October 24th to January 4th and ran a similar number, which I've talked on here plenty of times of how I like that angle. But this horse is also trained by Fausto Gutierrez. And I think this race kind of sets up for this horse to get a good trip. I don't think they're going to try to get stuck on the rail. So, you know, I think they're going to want to be second flight with this horse and let the top tier or the top group kind of fight it out. And this one's going to scoop up everybody late. I just don't see how this horse can't be competitive in here. He's not the hugest price in the world at 9-2, but I think
You're going to get a trip.
Yeah.
You're
I think
getting a
this horse
trip
going to
here.
get a good trip. Whether he wins or not is another story, but I think Zayas can get him in the perfect spot, and this horse can run him down late.
Carla Tuck should take back, make one late run in a race where there is a lot of other speed early on, and that stablemate should be winging it early. So Carla Tuck in race number 5. For Barry, for anyone who's out there hanging out with us this morning, check in with us. Leave us a comment. Let us know one of your best plays for the weekend. We know Jake from Thrilling Picks is out there right now hanging out. Jake, always great to hang out with you on these Friday mornings. Some of you out there, say hello. Let us know how your Friday is going as we continue along at Gulfstream Park. I'm going to go right next door to race number 6. And then I believe Barry has the 7th and Matt has the 8th. So we'll be in the next few races for you.
This just giving out the pick 4 sequence right here.
I know.
Little pick 4.
Just all in a row right there. Shout out to Carruthers. Love the Carruthers family, Matt and Ren. That's the one here, but that's not the horse. So I'm going right next door to Border Town here. Border Town, this is a $40,000 to $50,000 claimer. And honestly, Border Town has just been really consistent and in very good form as of late. Border Town comes off a 4th place finish last time out after a bad start, was chasing the lone speed of Mohawk. Got squeezed back and was just a little bit too far back, started to move, kind of got steadied, and finished a pretty close up 4th in a race where there was no passing. Look at the recent string of races for Border Town at Gulfstream, Indy, Laurel, Del Mar, Santa Anita, all good efforts. These races at Santa Anita, the race back in June, legitimate trouble back here behind Liberal and Count of Amazonia, who came back to win. Again, legitimate trouble on May the 21st, kind of in between horses. This April 3rd race was very good when finishing 3rd. These are all solid races, going a mile or so at very comparable efforts. Like, I just think this is a horse who fits pretty well and might be a little bit higher of a price on the board than he should in this spot. This is Border Town at 8-1 on the morning line. That'll only cost us $3,000 in our stable dual lineup heading into the Jennifer Young barn. First start off the claim, Border Town, the number 2 in race number 6. So there's the second of my 3 Friday Gulfstream plays. Barry has one in race number 7 to help us out with right next door. And Barry, you're going to head back to the dirt here. We have a first level allowance, optional claimers. Where are you going to land in the 7th?
All right. So I landed on number 7, Desert Ruler. This horse has some races to go back to that are very competitive here. Namely the September 24th effort, kind of blew it out there and got claimed that day. Then the horse comes back up in class, runs another good race, wins again on October 30th, wins again at 7 furlongs, stepping up in class again. Then kind of, it was kind of funny because it looks like in the racing form that the chart caller or whoever put in the comments for this horse's race probably bet this horse that day. You see it says wrangle back. I mean, This horse typically is forwardly placed, but wrangle back.
That's a word that you
Yeah, it's
said.
That's a bitter person.
inflammatory, right?
Yeah.
A little
Yeah.
inflammatory there. What are you trying to tell us?
Are we gonna
But,
start seeing in comment lines like asterisks? You know what I mean? Like when there's a cuss
Mm.
word, we're gonna see like an F and then asterisk, 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 like afterwards.
F this. F this trip. The horse got a horrible trip. Bad ride. All kinds of
Yeah.
nonsense. But
Uh,
I think that was kind of just a one-off kind of race. But this horse is in great form. There's enough speed in here to keep this race honest. I think the 2 Milliken is going to take some action, but that horse has flamed up some money.
that's my flamer right there. That's my
Yeah,
I think I mentioned I was gonna be in the 8th race, but I think this would probably be mine in a stable duel situation. Because I agree with you, like this horse is gonna open up shorter than the price on the morning
Yes,
line.
much.
And so for stable duel, it might be okay. If you're betting this horse, the value may not be there. It might be a wait and see approach, but I'm going to probably play one lineup where I throw this horse in because it'll probably give me some wiggle room in some of the other races because I think this horse will get bet. And he's kind of been like, he hasn't been bad. He's just sort of had
Doesn't
like
win.
gaps.
Just didn't win.
Yeah, he doesn't
Didn't
win and he has gaps, right?
Mhm.
It just looks like he's a horse with issues. Like he's got some ability, but I think he's kind of one of those horses who's like tough to ride and kind of his own worst enemy. Like, the race that really stands out for a lot of people is the runner up to Olympiad, early on in his career where he's like a bang up second here. Actually has a couple pretty big races like the Olympiad runner up effort, Reinvestment Risk at like around this point last year. He looked like he was going to turn into a really nice horse. And he just kind of like clunked out in the Carter and in the Churchill Downs, and he had some physical issues along the way himself. Dream Shake was also a nice one. Was an Urton horse who had a couple big races that he showed up and fired. But yeah, I think he's going to take some money. Barry in this race is Milliken, and the sniper is looking to Desert Ruler, the 7, 6-1. Both of them would cost you about the same, about 5,000 in your stable duel lineup here. In
One
race
horse,
number
one
7.
horse I do want to mention because I almost picked this one instead was the 10 Iconic Adventure. I don't think there's a lot really in this race, to be honest. And this horse hadn't been out in a while. One, kind of going a mile and an eighth at Gulfstream on February 26th last year. I think
And look
this
at who
horse
he
has some
faced in his first
upside.
couple
Right.
races. Like
Yeah.
his
Yeah,
first
early
race, he's
voting,
behind
life is
Hagler.
great.
Hagler, who comes back out of that race to win next time out. And at that point, back-to-back wins, and then goes on into Jerome. Like he was good at that point. And then, yeah, following that, you have early voting. And those are a couple good races. So yeah. I wouldn't have an issue with the 10 horse at a big price of 10-1.
Yeah, this is a
early
real
voting.
interesting race. You can't take a favorite here. I mean,
No.
the 3 is going to take a lot of action just because of the rider and the running style. This horse is going to be on the lead, but the 5 is going to be right there with him. There's enough pace in here, and even the 7 is going to be close up, which I do like. Behind those 2 and possibly the 8, Cause and Mayhem might want to go also.
And
And
honestly,
even-
they should try to get the 2
Yeah.
more involved in the race with
Right.
what he's been seeing. Like they should try to get him more aggressive because he's been having to come from too far back. So yeah, it could be a pretty honest pace and an honest setup in here in race number 7. So that's my final for Friday. I think that's Barry's final, and Matt's got one more for us, right? In race number 8, right
Yep.
next door. Which
Yep.
is a 20 non-2 going a mile and a 16th on the turf. The floor is yours for this one, Matty.
Yeah, so there's 2 horses that are interesting here. I do think the 7 horse Boston Princess at 6-1 is an interesting horse that perked up a little bit last time on the turf, going a mile, and is kind of backing it up with going a mile again. Ultimately, though, I landed on the inside. I went to the Demogorgon. And 6-1 on the morning line, again, only going to cost you $5,000, which is that average stable duel price we're shooting for. This is a horse that kind of has some muddied running lines, has sprinted a little bit, been on the synthetic, been on the turf. If you just isolate those 3 turf route efforts between February and April of this past year, 2 of those 3 efforts are well good enough to win this race going away, and ran against far superior company in terms of running against horses like Lover Lots, Beach Nut Trophy, who was a stakes placed horse. This was, those were good races. Those were good optional claiming 50K, optional claiming 70K races. So I just think this is a horse that has run some really good races and is now dropping down in class pretty significantly, getting back on his preferred surface, getting back to her preferred distance as well. And you have, Sweezy teaming up with Edgar Zayas. Those two team up, win of a 25% clip with a 292 ROI. This horse also has it has good early speed and will get out from that inside post and should just be on the lead. One of the things we should say about, at least that I've noticed about this Gulfstream Park turf, is that it is pretty favorable to horses up front if they're not pressured too much. That if they're not facing too much pressure, then, I mean, last week I know there was a 70-1 horse that that almost hung on to win. That was nothing more than a rabbit, but just that turf just can hold up front end speed pretty well. So I think Demogorgon's going to get out there, get on the lead, and really running against a much better class of horse. And just as comparison, again, we try to attack morning lines and we try to attack this stuff for Stable Duel. Demogorgon's 6-1. If you scroll down to the number 2 horse, Andy 1, this is a horse that's 3-1 in the morning line. This would cost you $8,000. This horse hasn't been able to get it done at the $20,000 claiming level, and the buyer speed figures are almost 10 points lower on the turf than what the number 1 has been putting out there. So I just feel like Demogorgon just makes a lot of sense in this spot. So that's going to be my pick for race 8.
You know what a Demogorgon is?
Well, it's from Stranger Things.
Stranger Things, yeah.
Yeah.
It's from
Well,
the
yeah,
upside.
there's actually something above that. Like, it's basically like a demon associated with Greek mythology.
Yes.
That's kind of the lord of the underworld.
Love this.
That's wild, man.
I
Yeah.
love these kind of things. Like, I love
That's why
these
it's a
kind
great
of things.
name.
Yeah. Like,
I
when
love
you
it.
can learn a little something and you're doing your handicapping, that's like my cup of tea right there.
Yeah.
I love the rabbit hole deep dives on like the
You
names.
see the picture of that thing. You
Yeah.
gotta Google that, man. It's
Okay.
crazy.
Demogorgon for Maddie. And we're also getting some information on the Demogorgon
Love
from the sniper as we turn the page from Gulfstream on Friday to Santa Anita on Friday. So we pull up Santa Anita. Looks like, fingers crossed, the weather will cooperate a little bit better. The clouds shifted in a little yesterday, right after Matt and I were talking about some Laurel, and we got some sprinkles here and there, but this weekend's supposed to be a little more clear. So fingers crossed, we'll hope the weather cooperates and everything remains on the grass at Santa Anita. They've had to cancel a few cards early on. There's been a lot of rain, but right now we're going to hope for sun shining today at Santa Anita. So Matt, as I'm pulling up past performances, remind everyone again today, there's a free game at Santa Anita, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Free contest at Santa Anita. You have to put in $0, and there is real money in winnings that can help build up your bankroll at Stable Duel. There's also a $30 contest out there where we just were at Gulfstream Park. There's a $5 and a $50 triple up. So a lot of different contests. And then we didn't touch on it today, but Tampa Bay, also a $25 game there.
So I've given this one out at some point before. Do me a favor, Jake, cue up the Laura Dern gif from Little Big Lies. It's my house and I live here, because I think It's My House is going to take them wire to wire in the opener. And I have been on a Laura Dern kick. I just rewatched the show called Enlightened. If you haven't seen that one on HBO, it's very good. The reason why that show's been kind of coming up right now, it's a Mike White show. Mike White from White Lotus just had like a huge week at a couple weeks ago at the award shows, like winning all over the place. And I always going to bring this up because Mike White is the writer and creator of a movie that I was in called Chuck and Buck that you can actually watch on Hulu. It won a bunch of awards early on, and this was like one of his first big claims to fame. He went on and he has done like incredible work since, and everyone only has positive things to say about him. But he wrote and stars in the show Enlightened with Laura Dern, and one of my favorite shows over the last couple of years has been Little Big Lies. We used to do a segment on That's What G Said podcast, recapping the Little Big Lies shows called Little Big Thoughts. And Laura Dern has a great scene where she's singing about how she's a rental agent, and it is just fantastic stuff there. She is a great actress. But I really don't think there's all that much speed in this race. I think at a mile, It's My House is a horse who was on the lead at 6 furlongs on the dirt. Like 2 starts back, this guy wired a field at optional 50 first level allowance at 35-1. And you know what? That was a pretty good group, because the horse that he beat is a horse named Traeger. And Traeger just came back and won back-to-back races. First at Del Mar, then last weekend at Santa Anita. He beat a horse named Hopkins, who is also a pretty nice horse.
Mhm.
Hopkins was dropping out of a stakes race there. And if you look at who Traeger has faced throughout his career, Traeger has beat Hopkins twice. He's run against other stakes horses in here like Straight No Chaser and Phineas. So that's a really quality animal that It's My House has defeated. He has ability when he gets the right kind of setup. And I think he's going to get it in here. I just don't know who else has the type of like speed that he's shown. I think he'll have a couple lengths on the field. It's my house and I live here. Gonna try to take him gate to wire.
You know what that reminds me of, and I'm probably dating myself here, but there's a bit that Eddie Murphy did in Delirious. Where
Oh
he's-
yeah, I know exactly what you're. I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, and shout out to Eddie, because Eddie's still dropping zingers like whenever he can.
Oh
he had
man!
he had that good setup.
Oh
That was-
yeah, that was
and it-
perfect.
And
Yeah.
it was like, we all know there's a punchline coming, right? And so it's not even like the punchline. It's like, yeah, it's a Will Smith punchline, like anyone, but it's the delivery and it's the way he sets up the joke that is just like, we're all baiting, like he's baiting us, like we're waiting, and then he just drops it, and it's just like, oh man, it's just a true pro. Man, great stuff from Eddie. So I have one a little bit later in the card for Friday, Santa Anita. We have Barry,
I have one in this race actually as well.
Okay, you also have one in the opener.
I have one in the opener as well, and so I'm on the inside rail with Neptune Storm.
Yep.
This is a horse that is, I think, finally getting back to where this horse needs to be, which is routing on the turf.
Mhm.
And
he could show a little bit of speed in here too, right? Like
he absolutely
could be more
could.
forwardly placed.
Yeah, he can be forwardly placed. I don't think he'll be as forwardly placed as year 2. I do think he'll probably be off of that.
Yep.
But this is a horse that, you could look at it one way and go, this horse is declining. Like maybe this horse has lost it a little bit, but it corresponds with this horse, shortening up and sprinting, getting, off track conditions sometimes. Now this horse goes back to routing on turf, which is where this horse has always put up decent numbers and figures. And so I just think at 12-1 for only $750, we talk about this all the time. At Santa Anita, you have to be very selective where you find these prices, because there's not a ton of inexpensive prices across the board that's really viable, and it allows you to use a 8-5 horse or a 5-2 horse or something like that later in the card. And so Neptune Storm is only $750. This horse has races to run back to. This was a grade 2 placed horse not that long ago, and so now dropping down to this claiming circuit, and like I said, getting back to what it does best, should be forwardly placed, but does not need the lead. And again, out west, that turf course tends to favor those forwardly placed horses. So I will be using Neptune Storm at 12-1 in my stable today.
Neptune Storm. So a couple of price plays for you right off the bat at Santa Anita. And yeah, you're right. You got to take advantage. If you find a big price, you have to just lock them into your lineup, because there may be a few races throughout the day where you're just not going to have the opportunity to find them. As we move from the 1st to the 4th, Matt, I believe you have one for, or no. Where are you next for Santa Anita?
I'm in 6 next.
You're in the 6th race. So Matt has race number 6, and Barry, you're also in race number 6. So let's meet in race number 6. Barry, we have a 6 furlong, 16 non-2 on the dirt. Where are you leaning in this one?
All righty. I'm going to throw one downfield here because, I have to hold up Tom Brady's legacy.
Throw it. Throw it.
So I am going with number 9, Gallerina.
Ooh, nice.
It's 20-1 morning line. Basically, the thought process is if you look at that horse's race on July 2nd and September 16th,
The dirt
not
sprint.
sure,
Yeah.
right? Dirt sprints. Not sure why they keep going to the turf with this horse. Clearly, this horse does not want a turf, but 2 times, the state bred 50,000 maiden claimer where she broke her maiden was a good race. And then, they went long for whatever reason, I guess to try it. Didn't work out. And then they go back to sprinting on the dirt at this level, runs a decent race. Those 2 speed figures are comparable with everybody in this race. At 20-1, I can't resist. I mean, I have to take a shot here.
Yeah, and last time out, you show
run
speed,
bad.
and it's like, okay, the horse just didn't want to go 6.5, right? Flash speed that was open 16. Now you're in with 16 restricted, non-winners of 2. Gallerina
Well,
on the outside.
My thought was on that last race is that they didn't want to go to the lead, and and they went to the lead and it didn't work out, and Curatola got taken off, and they're going with somebody that'll probably follow directions.
Gallerina, you must have seen her dancing in the sun. We got a little Gallerina on the outside here for the sniper at Santa Anita. So, Maddie, you have one in this race also, right?
Yeah, I'm on the 6, Silent Beauty, and this is a horse that's 6-1 in the morning line for Peter Urton, and it's going to cost you $5,000. This is one that we talk about a lot. Races make sense when you start looking at this horse through that lens, where you go, okay, this horse really didn't want the turf, finally got on the dirt, put in a pretty nice effort at a maiden 30, first time out. Then they try to route this horse going a mile. This horse doesn't want to go long. So then they go back to sprinting, and something clearly went wrong because they put the horse on the bench for 6 months. And then the horse comes off the bench and breaks her maiden. So, if you just kind of go race by race, like everything makes sense there. I also like the fact that this horse came back and ran a speed figure that was like right there with her best off the layoff. And I would imagine we're going to see even another progression here now that she's running against winners the first time. 6-1, $5,000. I just think this horse has a little bit of versatility too, can be on the lead, doesn't need to be on the lead though. I actually like that she rated last time out in that victory that she had. So I think this horse can sit off speed a little bit and, judge things. Van Dyke was up for that win in the maiden claimer at Los Al last time. So we'll see how that goes again. But like I said, I just think at 5-1 makes, or 6-1, I should say, on the morning line makes a lot of sense. I will say I did take a long look at that 9 as well. And I was kind of befuddled by the morning line on that 9. Like I was just like, that horse is not 20-1. Like that's a much better horse than a 20-1 horse.
I think 10 would have been probably a fair morning line. Like,
yeah.
I think it makes a little bit more sense.
I think so. I mean, I know Los Al form, sometimes can be a little bit tricky, translating it somewhere else, but that 9 makes a lot of sense.
It's just not the strongest race in the world. That's why, right? There's no
that's
other real
exactly
monster.
it. There's really nothing in here.
Yeah.
And 20-1 seemed a little high by my take also, but if that's
take
what
advantage
they're
of
gonna give us, that's what we're gonna take.
Exactly, take it.
Silent Beauty, you can look through Silent Beauty pretty easily and see that her races early in her career were just in a little bit too tough. The 6 furlong race back in February, she had legitimate trouble there. And following that, she goes a mile. It's a little too far. It's not all simple. It's not all A plus B, right? It's trial and error, right? Sometimes it's not all linear. You got to go a little longer, then you cut back. You got to find exactly where you fit. Silent Beauty seems like a good spot. The number 6 at 6-1. So I've got one more, but mine is in the 8th. I think, do we have Barry's got one in the
7th,
and Matt's got one in the 7th. So Matt, you go right next door in race number 7, and then Barry and I will head to the 8th. They're going to go a mile and a quarter in here.
Yeah.
Talk to us about race number 7.
$72,000 allowance on the turf. And I'm going to go to the number 6, Crosby Beach. And this is a horse I really like quite a bit here. This is a horse that has had some really nice works leading up to this race since that last effort out on the synthetic at Golden Gate on November 4th. And this horse has some nice races to run back to. The Pasadena listed stakes ran a really nice race that day, finished third to Sumter and Handy Dandy. I just think this is a horse that, and we should point out, this is a jockey who just picked up his first win at Santa Anita in a big spot too. And Kimura, who won the La Cañada last
and
week.
I will say he earned that win.
Yes,
if you watch that race, he was riding that horse from about halfway. And the rate, like there was nobody else that was moving behind him. So if you're watching that race, you're going, God, he still looks like he's got a shot because no one else is coming. Like he could sense that he was the only horse who was going to get a chance with the way that race was shaping up. And he just went to work. And I became very familiar with him at Woodbine. He's really quality. Like he's going to be in the winner's circle a couple more times here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is, I have a lot of faith in trainer Michael McCarthy as well. Interestingly enough, the synth to turf move, which I think has a lot to do with moving horses down from Golden Gate to Santa Anita or Del Mar, is a very winning move for him. He's not done it a ton, but has won at a 45% clip. So it's something to keep in mind. But I think this is a horse that also has good tactical speed, can be pretty forwardly placed on that turf. The number 1 horse should probably go as well, so there might be a little bit more early speed there, but not a ton. Outside of that number 1, I don't think anybody else really is going to want to be on the lead in this particular race. So I like Crosby Beach here at 8-1, only going to cost you $3,000. And like I said, this horse has some races to run back to and is coming back from just a very brief freshening. And so I would expect to see the best effort from this horse in this spot.
So I'm actually in the 7th and not the 8th. That was one race. I'm also in this race here, and I'm going to go back to a horse I gave out I think a few weeks ago here, Agatino.
Oh yeah,
the number 4. So we can watch the Agatino race last time out on January the 2nd, and it doesn't really seem initially, or it says I guess lacked room, so it does tell you that there is some trouble, but. Yeah, just never really got much of an opportunity in here. So Agatino is the 5 in this spot. And I'm not exactly sure what has happened the first few weeks with Flavian Pratt at the meet, but wow. He's struggling right now. I mean, we see every good athlete in every sport go through bad stretches. He is 5 for 62 right now, and he has 14 seconds in 9/3, and most of those horses are like 4-1 and below, right? We're talking major players, a lot of favorites, and like this is one of these horses. So look at where the 5 is right here. Agatino, he's kind of last and in between horses. He's just in a tough spot. He's got no room, and you're watching him. He's just never gonna have a chance here. You can tell the way this race is shaping up, because it's not all that much contested of an early pace, and he's buried in between horses, and the entire field's in front of him. It's like when you're a baseball player, and every time you get up to bat, it's like there's a pitch on the outside corner that they call a strike, and then the second pitch you swing at and you foul off, and it's already 0-2. And you look up and you're like, how the hell does that happen every time I'm at bat? It's kind of like what's going on. Like even right now, so he gets out of that spot, but there's just a wall of horses in front of him. Like, where's he going to go? He's trying to get to the outside. Even right now, look, this horse backs up into him, the 6. And it's like every little bit of trouble that he can encounter right now, he is. And it's been like, wow, just watching it over the last few weeks with a rider who is so good. And I'm mentioning it because, I don't think it's going to sustain forever. At some point, he's going to win 4 or 5 races in the day and then kick it off. But the guy who's benefiting is Hernandez, who's winning at a 30% clip, and he jumps on this horse right now, Agatino, and the blinkers come off. They'll probably just get Agatino to try to relax a little more, stretching out. I think he probably will be a little more forwardly placed here, just naturally moving from races where they were going sub 23 first quarter, and now they're going to be going 1.25 miles here. And as Matt mentioned, there's not that much speed. There's probably like 2 speed horses in here. He could sit maybe 4th. I'm going to give Agatino a shot right back in here. I'll give him one more shot. We've seen with
Sure.
we've seen with my gals before, some of the ladies that I like to throw in. I'll give them a couple chances, but I usually go 2 times. Then after that second time, it's like, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Let's see if we can get Agatino home in race number 7.
It's
And-
interesting. You bring up, Flavien Prat's struggles, and on the East Coast, Joel Rosario, is
Yeah.
really struggling down at
Ooh.
Gulfstream. I think he's winning at like 5 or 6% right now.
Yep, it's almost
Brutal.
I mean, it's brutal, And
Brutal.
it's the same sort of thing where he's riding a lot of favorites, and so we're seeing some big names jockeys struggle, and you're right, some other jockeys are benefiting, and there's also kind of a shift in the balance of power. It looks like maybe Gaffleone is now Asmussen's number 1 jockey, and so there's just a lot of
how
interesting things going on.
isn't it amazing if you would have said like 4 or 5 years ago when Juan Hernandez is riding races up at Golden Gate, if you would have said right now Juan Hernandez is getting like most of the first, he's like the first call rider at Santa Anita in a jocks room that has Flavien Prat, Dettori, and John Velasquez.
Right.
Right. And Juan Hernandez is the guy right now winning
Yeah.
all the races. And like, there was a prop I was doing for the Santa Anita Pick'em contest that is tomorrow. And the prop asks, of those 4 riders, who is going to have the most wins on the Saturday card? Prat, Dettori, Johnny V, and Hernandez. There are 10 races on the card. Hernandez has 9 mounts. And the other 3 guys have 6, 6, and 5.
Yeah.
And like every one of Hernandez's mounts are like 5-1 or less. He's really, really riding very well. So it's fun to see as he picks up the mount there in race number 7. So we have one more for race number 8. We move right on next door to the 8th for Santa Anita for Friday. We're looking at Calbreds, first level allowance on the dirt, going 6 furlongs. And Maddie, you're going to close us out here.
No, Sniper's going to close.
Oh, Barry
us out.
is. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Barry, you're in this one.
Barry's got. It's not quite bailout Barry, but it's close
Yeah.
to bailout Barry.
Yeah.
You have one in here, don't you, Gino?
No,
he
actually,
thought he
mine was
did. It
mine
was
was
the
7th.
seventh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
See, I thought we were going to end up on the same
I know.
page,
I
but,
thought so too. I was
you know,
hoping.
a little law professor action, but
A little.
this is a really interesting optional claimer, state breds for 20,000 going 6 furlongs on the main track. I concluded there probably is going to be a lot of speed in here. You have number 2, What in Blazes, that showed some speed. The 2 outside horses, the 9 Sunrise Journey and Let's Rejoice, will probably be all systems go. Same thing with Candy Rush. So that leaves me with number 6, who is my pick, No Longer a Hobby. I think this horse gets the right trip at the right time, has races back that are competitive with these, although I think this horse might be better on turf. But if you go to the December 9th race, it beat the 1, my man Bags, at 5 furlongs at Losal in a similar race. But I think this is just a favorable trip. There's lots of speed to run at here, and I think that horse gets first run and mows him down late.
My man Bags is actually 7-2, and Barry's play is a better price of 6-1. I think people sometimes see a horse like this and they think, just 5 for 43. But keep in mind, when you look at this horse's recent record and overall, this horse actually won like 2 of the last 7 races. So has actually been in better win form and has kind of found a better home where they fit most recently. No Longer a Hobby for the Sniper to close us out on the Friday card at Santa Anita. So hopefully we helped you out with a couple Friday plays there. Matt, let's you and I give out at least one for Laurel real quick for Saturday. Let's dip in over there and give out like 1 or 2 for Saturday at Laurel, because we don't get the chance to talk a whole lot of Laurel Park, but I think they have 6 stakes races on Saturday. And if anyone wants a little bit more in-depth coverage of Laurel, Matt joined me yesterday. We spent about 30 minutes going over races 5, 6, 7, and 8. Really fun stake sequence. And I'm going to take advantage of my good friend Barry next week. He's going to help me out with Gulfstream on the Pegasus Day, and we're going to do a little stream setup and talk about some of those races as well. So when you find friends, you guys got to take advantage of them as much as you can. That's what friends are all about. So Matt, Matt, Laurel Park.
Lucky you live on the other coast, bro.
I know, right? Yeah. Talk to us, Maddie, about Laurel and a couple of the races that you're looking at for Saturday.
Yeah, so I'll give you one that was outside of the sequence what we talked about, and I'll give you one that was in the sequence that we talked about. So and we should mention there's a $30 contest at Laurel on Saturday. And so it features 6 stakes races at Laurel. So it's a really big day for the Mid-Atlantic there. $30 contest and a $1,500 payout. So some nice payout there for Stable Duel on Saturday. I actually am in the very first race. I'll give out a Pele. This is a $45,000 maiden claimer going 1 turn mile. And I really like the number 8 Gaming Soul at 5-1. That's going to cost you $6,000, but really like this horse a lot. I thought this horse ran pretty well on debut, tired a little bit, but I like the slight cutback. I think a 1 turn mile is going to be exactly what this horse wants to run. And this is an interesting statistic, but Claudio Gonzalez, when he gives Lasix to non-first time starters for the first time in maiden special weights, is winning 33% of the time. So this is very much so a winning move for Gonzalez in terms of giving this horse Lasix down at second start, down at this maiden claiming level. So I like that. I like the fact this horse came out, has had a couple of nice works since that December 9th race. And I get Toledo up. Actually, I kind of like that as a jockey upgrade a little bit. And so I think the 1 turn mile is going to work well. So Gaming Soul 5-1, I'm going to use in the first race at Laurel on Saturday.
And then Matt and I will both have a play in race number 6. We're going to both give you prices. They will be different prices, but I think they're both very live horses if you want to play any type of late exotics. First, I will go to the 6 horse, Yodelay, who comes out of a couple races where this horse was behind Repo Rocks. Repo Rocks has earned $488,000. That's a nice one. Look at Yodelay, who, when behind Always in a Hurry, was only beaten 3/4 of a length on December the 18th, ran really, really well that day. I think a key for this one will be the 6.5 furlongs. Last time out at 6, go in the slop, didn't quite get the type of pace scenario that he needs to compete with a group like this. But the way the race shapes up, and I think this will kind of lead to one of Matt's plays too. We're both looking at this race like there's a good amount of early speed. If you start from the outside in, Baron with the outside draw is probably going to have to be forwardly placed. You know, Pirate Rick is going to go. You know, Al Love Josie is going to go. Factor it in, can show speed, but can also sit a little bit. Wouldn't be shocked to see Kieran's Notion showing speed. This horse just had a little bit of trouble from the rail last time out, but always wants to be pretty close up. 5 Dreams wants to be close up too, Matt. So I think for both of our handicapping, we thought this was a race that could have a lot of speed. That led me to the 6 Yodelay, who that led you actually to looking at maybe even 2 different horses that you could use in a Stable Duel situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is one where there's a 9 race card. So you're going to have to double up in at least one of the races. I do like the favorite factored in quite a bit in this spot, or I should say the second favorite, who's 5-2 on the morning line. But my shot that I'm going to give out is a big one, and that's Savoy at 20-1 on the morning line. Savoy is, I mean, this horse is only going to cost you $250 in Stable Duel. So you can easily, to Gino's point, add this horse and take the favorite as well. You know, if you want to play, do that sort of a play, take a big long shot in the favorite. But Savoy, the last 4 times out, has not done anything wrong. And this is a horse that has finally gotten shortened up. This was a horse that was routing its entire career. Then they shortened this horse up. And what does this horse do? Win, win, win. And, you know, it gets progressively better speed figures every single time out. Then last time out goes up against the 2 favorites in this race, goes up against Factored In and Baron in an 8-horse field and finishes 3rd. And so you're now giving me 20-1 on a horse that finished 3rd behind the 2 favorites in a race that sets up perfectly for this horse.
Much better than that last race setup.
Absolutely. There's so much speed. This horse is breaking from the inside rail. This horse can take back and just let everybody else go gangbusters up front and then close like a freight train late. Everybody who watches Laurel knows they have a long home stretch. The second finish line that should set up perfectly for Savoy in this spot. 20-1, $250. I'm all over this horse. Will this horse win? I don't know, but this horse is going to massively outrun its odds. I'll tell you that much.
I love this play from Matt Savoy, 20-1, finding some very nice value there in the Fire Plug, the $100,000 stakes at Laurel. We both will give you one more for Saturday, Laurel. Remember, a $30 contest of Stable Duel. If you're watching this and maybe you don't play a whole lot of Laurel, maybe you can take a couple of these horses that Matt and I gave you, and I would recommend go handicap the rest of this card. It is very, very good. And one of the really nice stakes races is the 8th race. It's the Spectacular Bid, $100,000 up for grabs in this one. Dun, 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 dun. Da, da, da. Where we're going, we don't need roads. Gotta say, like, one of the best movies ever. Like, there's so
Honestly,
little. Yeah,
it could be considered the perfect movie.
it could.
Yeah,
Like, if
the
you want
first
to
one
have
is
a
so good.
the first one, if you want to have a
Yeah.
conversation
The
about
first
like
one.
as good of a movie as you can make, it's got a little bit of everything for you. It's exciting, it's funny, it's creative, it's
Some
just
incest in there.
a little incest. I was gonna say little incest.
Game of
Not-
Thrones is ripping that
little
off
Game of
years later.
Thronesies, yeah, and just like some all-time lines, like the Biff interactions here and there. And I've mentioned this, I'm sure, a few times. Like anything Back to the Future related has a very warm spot for me. My dad actually built Michael J. Fox's house in like the late 80s in Bel Air. My dad's a general contractor. And like when Michael J. Fox was one of the biggest stars in the world, my dad was building his house out here in LA. And I have a couple of DeLorean style hot like Power Wheels cars that I used to drive around in the front yard. They've got the car, they've got the door that opens up. And so one of them I drove in, and the other one we have hanging up that's signed by him in the box we just never touched. And it's, just like a collectible. So I love anything Back to the Future related. And that's my tangent because
Little
I'm
known
on.
fact that CJ Johnson is Biff Tannen. So
Oh, okay. Okay.
he is.
I love that. So we don't need roads is the play for me. And if you look at this guy, he has 4 career races. 3 of them have been on an off track, and he's run pretty well twice on and off track. But the only time he got a fast track, he was a winner last time out at Delaware. He's now going to move into a barn that's very good with new acquisitions. But I love the versatility we've seen from him in his 4 races. He showed that he can come from way out of it. Like in his debut, he kind of missed the break and he was a little slow. And he closed like double-digit lengths to finish second. Then in his second start, they knew that he was live. They just wanted to make sure he was right on the lead. So they put him really close, and he ends up winning that race at a short price. In his third start, they said, hey, let's take a shot in the Laurel Futurity. And I think Barry did all 3 of us like Congruent. I think, wasn't he one of those
I think so.
Yeah.
that we
I think he
all
was.
3 liked at Gulfstream Park? This is a decent horse. Like he's been in a couple stakes races against nice turf horses. They took a shot throwing Congruent in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile off of that Laurel race. So I think it's a pretty good fit for We Don't Need Roads on the outside. Has a little bit of versatility in here. Matt, we both talked about how we're not sold on Coffee with Chris.
Yeah.
I need this horse to prove it to me. He earned a big figure last time in a race where it just sort of looked like he kind of got a nice trip and then went on with it. I do believe in Prince of Jericho. I think he's a very honest favorite. I wouldn't be completely chucking him out of exotics, but in Stable Duel, I'm not looking for the 7-5 Prince of Jericho. I much prefer the 12-1 We Don't Need Roads on the outside. That's going to be my Stable Duel play, and definitely a horse I would look to throw in any kind of pick 4s, pick 5s. If this horse is like 8-1-ish or so, I'm going to sprinkle a little win money as well.
Absolutely. No, yeah, I think a really good play in this particular race. And because we're on this one, I'll just say I do also like the 5B West. That's a horse that I think is kind of interesting, cutting back from a mile to 7 furlongs, has taken a lot of money the last 3 times out. So there's clearly a lot of interest around this horse, and is going to a very high percentage barn in John Robb, who's one of the top trainers in the Mid-Atlantic. So I think that there's some things to like there about that horse at 10-1. Again, if you're trying to get around the favorites from a stable duel perspective, try to find a less expensive option to use. I think Gino and I both have identified some horses that are going to have a good run in this particular race at a lower price.
Okay, so we will all turn the page to Saturday now, to Gulfstream Park for Saturday. As I pull up Saturday, give everybody the reminder one more time, Matt. Do we know what our contests look like for Gulfstream for Saturday?
We do. And we just have one for Gulfstream on Saturday. So we have a $40 buy-in, $2,000 pot, 3 entry maximum. Just to let the other folks know, we do also have for Stable Duel a $5 single entry game at Tampa Bay with a $400 pot. We have that Laurel Winter Carnival $30 buy-in, $1,500 pot. And then we also have a Golden Gate contest, $5 single entry, $300 pot. So again, stuff from all over the country for Saturday on Stable Duel.
Okay, we get the DRF past performances up. If you ever need help handicapping the races, you see we go through DRF and how easy it is to navigate replays, charts, pedigree information, statistics, everything you need at drf.com to handicap these races each and every weekend. So for Saturday, Barry's looking at races 3 and 7 at Gulfstream Park. Matt's looking at races 1, 3, and 8. So Matt, you start us out. We've got maiden 20,000 claimers in the opener. Who are you looking at to get things started?
Yeah, so
I love yeah.
yeah. So I'm looking at a horse that's 0 for 17. And that's the number 2, Lynn Pierre. And Lynn Pierre is 6-1 on the morning line. It's only going to cost you $5,000. And admittedly, this horse is 0 for 17 in her career. That said, we're second back from a little bit of a layoff. And this horse seems to be running better now than before. Also, this horse runs a lot better on the turf than it does on the synth or the dirt. So this horse, is on the right surface. Its best efforts have come on the turf, and particularly at Gulfstream, we should point out. So I think there's some things to like. Routing at a mile, I think, makes a lot of sense for this particular horse. You pick up a good jockey with Vasquez, and I just think there's something there. I think this horse may be due. I mean, honestly, the last 3 efforts, when you go through and look at what the rest of this field has to offer, is kind of good enough to win. And so there's not anything in this field that's particularly scary from a morning line standpoint. And then when you really start getting out to the better horses, they're on the far outside. So, I'll take a horse that is going to have inside position, that has had some success at Gulfstream. Again, I know going for an 0 for 17 horse and a maiden claimer is not typically a winning move, but 6-1 on the morning line, not going to cost you a fortune. I think the 2 makes a little bit of sense here.
Yeah, this is just not a strong group.
Honestly,
yeah,
that's the thing.
It's another process of elimination race where you start eliminating horses and you get back to this horse who has some pretty competitive races and seems like they're trending in the right direction right now. And honestly, she's she's a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
That's run 17 times, right? She's not like a 6-year-old either.
Right.
So she might still have some upside even.
Yeah. I mean, because she just turned 4, obviously. And so she and Beverly Park are, trying to, figure out who's going to run the most races this year.
She ran 12 times last year. Yeah.
Yeah. So, she's run 3 times as many races as Flightline did. So, it's, she's a hard knocking horse, but I do think there's, like I said, I'm just not overwhelmed by this field and think she's got a real shot. So,
nope. I agree with you. It's not the strongest race in the world at all. That's the first of a couple plays on the Saturday card for Matt. I think all 3 of us land in the third race, which isn't surprising to me because this is a good race. This is a mile and a 16th on the turf, a maiden special weight on the turf. Barry, my friend, where did you land?
I ended up on number 3.
Gotta like him.
Because because you
Talk
gotta
to
like
us.
him. I mean, this horse opened up as his first race was against Forte,
Yep.
who ended up winning the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
I was in a fantasy horse racing league last night, and I spent up to get Forte as one of my top horses. So I hope he has a big year this year.
Yeah, I think he might. You never know.
You never know.
I
from
love
the
the understated way that Barry's like, yeah,
Oh,
he
I
might.
know. No, you never know.
He might be
from 2
Corniche,
to
sure. He
3.
might, he might not. I don't know. We'll see.
I like the horses like him with his types of styles, like that can come from off the pace. I'm not as high a lot of times when I was drafting like the really just fast 2-year-old horses, because then I don't know if they really want to stretch out or if they can come from off the pace. So
Yeah.
I prefer horses like a Forte that have proven they can sit, of those 2-year-olds. So it was him and Nest were like my two big horses that I paid up for this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, as far as gotta like him goes, one thing you can count on when you put Paco Lopez on your horse, that you're probably going to be forwardly placed,
Yep.
within a couple lengths of the lead.
Yep.
And that's exactly what, it's weird because when you see these races and they usually card them very early in the Gulfstream program, usually every day. There are always these wide open events, and everybody's like, oh, you got a lot of speed and this horse is going to do this, and then none of the horses do what they're supposed to do.
Yes.
And the only thing that's really the constant is speed.
Yep.
And I think that is going to play to this horse's advantage in comparison to the rest of the horses in this field. There doesn't seem to be a lot of speed on paper, but
Nope.
it could go crazy, which, and I think, the post position helps this horse too. Being closer to the rail, this horse can get good position, whether it's on the lead or not. And I think that kind of gives this horse a little bit of advantage over the rest of them. Just the fact that this horse has actually run a race helps. And then anybody that might be any good might be towards the outside. You have the horse number 8, Jebby, who ran a decent race, but came from kind of off the pace. And I don't see how that's going to be beneficial in a race like this. So with that being said, I think gotta like him at 12-1. You gotta think that this horse has a pretty good shot.
And isn't that how they label the sizes at Cold Stone? I think they label them like it, love it, gotta have it, like gotta like it.
There it
it's
is.
Like, give me that big ass one, whatever that one is. That's what I just say. Like, I actually they have 3 sizes, and then they have the 4th size, which is the one that you can bring back home and put in your freezer. I always get that one, and she laughs at me like, you're like the smallest dude, and I'm getting the biggest ice cream, and I get them mixed with rainbow sprinkles and chocolate chips. That's my my mixture over there. So for me in race number 3, I think we all have one in here. Barry, I'm seeing the race very similarly to how you are. I don't think there's that much speed, and I hope my horse sits right behind your horse, the one, Battlefield Park, who showed a little bit of speed last time out, first time for Shug, got some action in a maiden special weight race at Aqueduct. Well, the race was on the slop, so I never really care or worry about a horse where they finish if a race is in the slop. What I do like, he showed speed, so we know that he's at least got a little bit of sprint type speed. Following that race, he's come back and trained very well for this, and he's bred beautifully. His dam was a multiple winner on the grass, was a 4-time winner on the grass. His dam was multiple graded stakes placed, going long on the turf. So this is exactly what she wants to be doing. She's the first foal, or he's the first foal. So we don't have a whole lot of direct siblings to compare to, but we just have the dam. And now you're getting Lasix for the first time. So action in the debut, first time Lasix, second start for a barn who is very patient. And doesn't really crank him first time out. And like Barry said, it's probably the 1, the 3, and maybe the stretching out 4 who will probably be forwardly placed in here. And those will probably be the 3 that figure it out up front early, right? However they set things up, I think it'll probably stack the pace in here. So that's at least how I'm seeing it. I hope the 1 saves ground and maybe can track in right behind Barry's horse here. My Battlefield Park is at 6-1. What about for you, Matt? Who are you looking at here?
Yeah, so I'm going to use the aforementioned Jebby, number 8 horse. And Barry, both of you are right that there's not a ton of speed in this race. And part of the reason I don't mind Jebby so much is the horse is a little bit of a closer, but wasn't that far off the
No,
pace. I mean,
not
and
at
this
all.
was a horse that was sitting like 3.5 lengths off, most of the trip around. And it was also important to point out that was an 11 horse field, and the horse was basically sitting mid pack most of the way. So this is not like a dead closer that needs a huge pace to run into. And so I just, I love to see that perk up between the first and second time out and with the layoff, having run in debut at Colonial in August and then coming back in December and running at Gulfstream Park. I will say this horse has some very bizarre works. The 55 4 furlong work was maybe a little concerning. But this horse does, seem to have ability and talent to be able to close a little bit. And so, I think, and the fractions were not, astronomic in that last time out. 23 and 47 and 2. But I think there's, some additional improvement there. Kelsey Danner, we should say, is a pretty hot barn right now, winning 3 of 11 entries. So I think there's something to be said there. Getting Lasix for the first time, second off the layoff. So I think at 5-1 for only $6,000, this is a horse that I think is going to sit probably a little bit closer, perhaps, than than he even did last time because of that lack of speed. And so I think this horse will try to, obviously cross over a little bit from that outside post position, save some ground. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Jebby sitting 4th or 5th rather than maybe 6th or 7th or something like that.
Yeah, if you're into first time starters, the 9 horse Idle Chatter might be the one for you. I think this horse might have some ability. But I just thought the post might be a little bit too tough, but I'm going to include that one in
This
pick
horse
fives, pick
has a
fours, pick
very
fives.
nice pedigree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
she's
why.
a-
Yeah, I mean, look at the owners.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you know that what you're
Yeah.
going to get.
Yeah,
as
mom was
far
a
as
first time
pedigree.
winner on the turf, and
and
there's a lot.
she's a full no, I guess a half, because she's a daughter of Justify, but she's the half to Princess of Silmar here. Who was really, really good. Biblical also was a multiple winner. The Nightingale didn't break the maiden, but Stidle did. So this one has dropped some nice winners in the family, and I agree with you. That's at least a horse to keep an eye on and have on your radar. And would not be shocking to see this horse pop at a big price first time out. That's Idle Chatter.
I think he's going to get bet down. I think she's going to get bet down, to be
Yeah.
honest. I don't think that 12-1 is going to hold. She's going to be way below that, probably half, if not
Off
more
the
than
pedigree.
half that. Yeah.
That's Idle Chatter in the third. We will all move a little later on to the Saturday Gulfstream Park card. Barry, I think you have one in the 7th. Am I right there?
Mhm.
Yeah,
You're
race
right.
number 7, and then Matt and I are in the 8th. So you talk to us about race number 7 at Gulfstream. We'll be on the synthetic. Low level claimers on the synthetic. This is bread and butter for Barry right here.
That's right. This is what we live for, especially, the people that have the wherewithal to keep playing Gulfstream throughout the summer.
Yes.
Yes.
You got to be familiar with these types. And if you are, you can get some pretty decent prices, because these races are always chaotic. Anything low level on the synthetic, it's always nuts. That being said, I ended up going with number 11, Upstart Gentleman. This horse has good form on the synthetic tracks, which is a plus. The weather is warming back up down there, and I suspect that speed isn't going to be as good. So with that in mind, I think this horse is going to be pretty well placed. If the jockey, who is, you're kind of taking a gamble, is a younger jock that will have to place this horse well. But getting a break in the weight is another plus for me, especially going a route of ground. So this horse has races that are comparable to everybody in here. And at 8-1, I think this one is definitely worth a shot. Although it isn't my strongest play of the day, But I think this one merits a really long look, especially in late multis and in stable duel as well.
Yeah, and when you're playing throughout the day, they're not always going to be your strongest, right? There are a lot of horses that you have to fill out your lineups with, horses that you look at and you say, okay, if they're this price, I'm going to throw them in, at least an underneath type horse. That's Upstart Gentleman for Barry in race number 7. Matt, I think you and I both have the 8th, right? We're right
We
next
do.
door. So
do.
we have another maiden special weight race, a fun race for 3-year-olds going 1 mile and a 16th on the turf course. Who struck your fancy in race number 8?
We may be on the same horse here. I don't know. I like the number 2.
Harbor Moon. I'm right next door to you. I'm all about Shug. I've got a couple Shug horses, so I'll talk more about the 3, but you sell us on Harbor Moon here.
Yeah, so Harbor Moon 8-1 in the morning line, only going to cost you $3,000. This is a horse that
I mean, you don't really have to sell us very much on this horse. This is a nice horse.
Yeah, exactly. This is a very nice horse that has perked up even more on the turf, has gotten better every single time out, has done nothing but improve. Now, you might say this horse, just kind of finishes underneath a lot, which is true. Here's the thing on Stable Duel. If a $3,000 horse finishes second or third, that's a win a lot of times for you on Stable Duel. But I think this is horse is actually a really strong win candidate. And this horse has ability, clearly has some versatility too. We talked about this, before, Gino. This horse has, went to the lead last time and faded a little bit late, but this horse also has been sitting mid-pack and makes a little bit of a run. So this horse has a few options in terms of what this horse wants to do. So I like that. This horse has run against some next out winners in terms of Candidate and Prowling Tiger. So I think this horse just has some good versatility. I also think there's something to be noted here. The favorites in this race are all on the far outside and could get really difficult trips and really wide trips for rather young and inexperienced horses in terms of the 10 and the 11. So I because of that, you give me a more experienced horse that's improving every time out, that's going to get a ground saving trip. I'll use that angle all the time.
I had to throw in this 3 horse because remember the race that Fort Wilderness comes out of? Fellas?
Oh, yeah.
This is our Mooncat race. Mooncat, who was 4th in that race and came back to win. Mooncat, who was a winner on January the 7th at the maiden special weight race on the turf. And it's almost the same exact thing that happened with Mooncat. Fort Wilderness debuts in a race trying to get on the turf. The race is taken off the turf, put on the synthetic, and Fort Wilderness actually runs really well, even on the synthetic race, chasing Lone Speed that day. Lone Speed of Dude in Colorado. Remember, that horse went wire to wire. Take a look at Fort Wilderness's pedigree. The Dam Akatea, multiple winner on the turf, was a Group Stakes placed horse, Group 1 placed overseas in France. The siblings, a half to a horse named Stony Point, who's a multiple turf winner and was stakes placed. And that's the only other horse who's tried the turf. Missouri was 0 for 2. Stony Point's a multiple winner and stakes placed. This horse has good turf pedigree, gets Lasix for the first time, ran a good third, chasing Lone Speed in the debut. The race has already come back productive. And the same thing for Shug, as I mentioned with the other horse in race number 3. I'm always immediately looking for a McGahee horse that's making their second or third start. When I'm handicapping the races, I'm automatically going to those horses knowing they're going to show improvement. And then if I look at the horse and the pedigree fits and the trip that they got in their debut race makes sense, and all of a sudden now I check those boxes. I know that Shug's going to get a horse to improve. I like Fort Wilderness in here, and this would be fun for us with that Mooncat race, getting Fort Wilderness home in race number 8. So I believe that does it for us at Gulfstream Park, right? Are we done for Saturday? Yeah, let's head over to Santa Anita, dish out a few for Santa Anita for Saturday. So for Saturday at Santa Anita, Barry, you have races 3 and 10, I believe. And what about for you, Maddie? Who are you looking at?
I'm not in Santa Anita.
You went Laurel. You went Laurel.
I just went Laurel, so that's why.
You went Laurel instead. Okay, cool. So for Barry, I know. Oh,
I gotta be
Oh.
loyal. I gotta be loyal to my Mid Atlantic.
yeah, you got to stay
come
loyal.
on.
You got to stay loyal
stay
to
local there.
Laurel. As
Yeah.
Barry, you're in the third. I'm in the third. You're looking at races.
Well, now I got to take a look at this third race.
Yeah,
too.
now you
guys-
got to take a look at the third. Barry, you're in the third and the 10th. I'm also actually in the third and the 10th, and I'll drop in one more in between those. But talk to us about race number 3.
Yeah, it's a nice $50,000 optional claimer going 5.5 on the flat turf at Santa Anita. So, you know, on paper, this race looks loaded with speed. You have the 2 Our Shining Light, which that horse will probably be forwardly placed with Frankie. New York Dreams last win came going wire to wire, although it was an easy lead that horse got, and I don't think that's going to happen. In Code, who is a stablemate of the horse that I like, which kind of sets up in a similar situation like we did before with a little kind of rabbit thing going on. The 6, Who's Candy, has a lot of speed. I would think the 8, Naismith, will probably try to go up and be really forwardly placed too. So there might be a little bit of a scramble. And that leads me to the horse that I picked, the number 1, Really Big News. Now, I think this horse's hand is forced, and I think this is because of the post position, where this horse is going to have to get out and go a little bit earlier than normal and get into a good position. And I think that can happen, especially with Johnny V being a heads-up rider. He's going to get his horse in the right position, and basically it's going to be in the second flight behind the speed. And whether or not this horse wins, we'll have to see. But a lot of these races this horse has been very competitive. I think this distance is probably not this horse's best distance, but I think the trip is going to make all the difference.
Say hi to Barry and say, I agree, Barry. Yeah?
My man.
Milo, off to school, Milo. And we got, I know this is gross. Nobody wants to hear this, but I got a great alert from school yesterday that made me so excited. We got a pee-pee in the potty alert.
There you go.
I was like, oh my gosh, the teacher ran up to tell Stephanie yesterday in the pot. I was like, oh my, this is how your life changes when you become a parent.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sitting here yesterday and I've got these alerts that come through on my phone that say Milo went pee-pee in the toilet. And I'm like, oh, yes, yes. So,
like we just hit a pick 5. you know?
Yeah,
I know.
just wait till Milo gets a little bit older and you're doing social study projects, which
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had to do. So it wasn't her project; it was
your-
actually my
it
project.
was your project. So,
So I'm waiting to see what I get. I'm waiting to see my grade.
yeah, so Milo ended up getting a box of churros. Mom went and got some of those nice churros that have like
That's what's
sprinkles on them and
Yeah, this
everything.
is
So yeah, he had a nice night last
Hell
night.
yeah.
Sniper, how you were talking this race out is exactly how I see it. I'm just looking at a different horse, and I'm looking at the number 7 in Code. So let's go through this one a little bit. I love these horses. If you listen to me on my podcast or on this show, it's like a broken record sometimes. When everything makes sense, I feel all warm and cozy inside. Like I feel like I found a right horse, even if the horse doesn't fire. So let's look at Elevado. He debuts at the end of 2021 in September. Speed, fade in his debut. The race is fine against maiden special weights, kind of like what we would expect from a horse making their debut. Gets a little tired. Then in his second start at Santa Anita, he wins a maiden special weight race sprinting, and he actually beats a pretty nice horse named Sumter. Sumter is multiple graded stakes placed. We just saw Sumter in the Mathis Mile finishing third a couple weeks back. So those are the first 2 starts for Elevado, and they're both pretty good. They both make sense. They're both in 2021. Following that maiden win, he goes to the bench. He's off from October all the way to July of 2022. So we're talking about like 8+ months, 9 months or so. Shows back up off the 9-month layoff, and he needs the race, right? You expect that he's going to need this race on July the 28th. How about the September 10th race in his second start back? He doesn't run all that poorly. He's only beaten 2 lengths in that race. On September 10th that day, there were 4 next out winners. This was a loaded race. Yang again, Lincoln City, Commander Kai, the last place finisher in this race. Straight No Chaser came back to win on the dirt, and they even took a shot in the Malibu with that horse because they thought enough of him. Straight No Chaser. So 4 next out winners from the September 10th race. The next start, October the 9th, legitimate trouble. 3 next out winners in this race against First Level Allowance Company. You've got Respect the Code, Go On, and Time to Party, who all come back and win their next start. Any of those horses in this race would be a very, very tough contender. And then last time out, Elevado, 5 furlongs on the turf in a tougher spot, again, has some trouble behind a legitimate horse named Motorius, who comes right back out of that race to win their next start. Motorius was super impressive, earned a 99 buyer speed figure, winning just a couple weeks back on January the 2nd. This horse is going to get some class relief. As Barry mentioned, the race sets up for a horse to come from off the pace. If this horse can sit these trips like we were seeing 3 or 4 lengths off, I'm telling you, he has a little bit more positional speed than you might suggest. Like in that last race, he's right on the lead, but they're all jumbled up, and he ends up getting shuffled back from the inside. All of a sudden, he's back to the second flight and then the third flight, and then he just doesn't have a shot to run. He's a little bit sneaky in here. When you go through each of his races, they all kind of fit, and now he's going to be dropping in for a claiming tag for the first time. He's going to be getting legitimate class relief. I like Elevado at 15-1 here. And it's also worth mentioning that this is the start of that coast-to-coast pick 5 on Saturday. So that is going to go back and forth from Santa Anita to Gulfstream. I think it starts at Santa Anita in the 3rd. Gulfstream races 9 and 11. And then it goes back to Santa Anita for races 6 and 8 for the that pick 5, that coast-to-coast pick 5. So Barry and I both throwing a couple downfield for you in race number 3 with a 12-1 shot and then a 15-1 shot Elevado. Barry, let's get to you. And I both have the 10th. Is that your other one, right? You have the 10th?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll give you one in between in the 8th, and then we'll both finish up in the 10th. So the 8th race is also an important race because not only is it part of some of the late exotics, it's a stakes race, a 1.5 mile stakes. It's the closing leg of that coast-to-coast pick 5. And in this 1.5 mile race, I thought this little tidbit was kind of interesting. You have a bunch of horses who aren't very sharp right now. Look at Warren's Candy, 0 for the last 3, 1 for the last 4. Lady Clementine, 1 for the last 5. Queen of the Temple, 0 for the last 6. You have Duvet Day, 0 for the last 4. Australia Mia, 1, but that win was back in June. So at like 7 months ago already. Almost a Factor, 0 for the Page that we see. Barrister's Ride, 0 for the Page. New Heat, 0 for the Page. And then you get to the 7, 'Tis an Adventure. So since the date of August the 28th, that's the date that I'm using for all these horses. 'Tis an Adventure won on August the 28th, and since then has raced 4 times, has won 3 of the 4 races. The rest of the field combined is 1 for 21 since August the 28th. This is a sharp horse catching a bunch of other horses who are not in very good form. And this is usually what happens in these 1.5 mile races. You'll get sharp horses like this that step up the class ladder and go and win and catch a bunch of other horses that are just kind of plotters and that aren't in the best of form. And you know what? There's like no speed in this race either. I don't know if the 7's going to be on the lead, but she's going to naturally be much closer than most in here just because she's coming out of some shorter races. And most of these others are like stone cold dead closers here. So I think she's in a really nice spot. 'Tis an Adventure, who comes up for the Steiners, who comes down from Northern California for Steiner, who wins tons of races, Golden Gate at Emerald also through the years. 'Tis an Adventure won for me in the stakes in a very important race on the Saturday card at Santa Anita. But Barry,
Kind of like Duvet Day there. I didn't pick that horse, but
As far as
I-
distance is concerned, this is one of the proven horses going long, right? Like these back-to-back races down here in May and July, like the Churchill win, then back the win at Del Mar, even the third here and at Santa Anita back in October. Like any of those races would be really competitive.
Yeah, that's a tough race, though. I mean, we don't get in this country races that go that far very often, so they're
No.
always a challenge.
Yeah.
When they go that far, it's always tough because, in this country, the, speed kind of prevails most of the time, but, you don't really get too many horses with speed that can go that far unless they're just loping along, which might happen here, but it's just a matter of who's going to go.
And in that case, it's not even a horse that has speed, right? It's just
Right.
the horse that gets the benefit of the race.
Right.
They're not
Basically
even
wins
like
by accident. Right.
Yeah, they by default, So you're absolutely right. Let's close things out, Barry. Let's go to race number 10. Talk to us about how you want to close out the Saturday Santa Anita card.
Yeah, this is a nice maiden special weight going 6.5 on the flat turf at Santa Anita, maiden special weight. I ended up on number 10, Phosphorescence.
Oh,
No!
we
So
closed
let me
out.
just say, I was looking over this race while you guys were talking, and I was trying to figure out what horse you two were going to land on. And I was like, I don't know what horse they're going to land on, but I like this 10 a lot. So-
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Yeah,
the
it seems-
official play of the day. Here we go.
It seems like a no-brainer. This horse, got the debut back in October at Keeneland. Didn't run all that badly. Probably needed the race, and it probably showed in the windows too. It was 13-1. Then comes out west in a new barn and runs a much improved race on the turf. And that's really what got me here. I think this horse learned a lot in that race. In comparison to everybody else, it's hard to gauge because you have some first-time starters in here, which usually on the turf, it's tough to win first time out on the turf.
And-
So I kind of disregard a lot of those horses, but you need somebody who's lightly raced. Once you get over 7, 8 starts, it's kind of like, all right, well, what are you doing here?
And what you have in this race too is like you've got the 1, the 3 who was at 6 but has been more of a miler. The 5 and the 9 are all cutting back from mile races, from longer races. There's really no like proven sprint speed in here. And I think because of the outside draw, like we don't mind that for our horse.
No,
We're just
I
gonna
like
go.
that. I like
right?
that.
Me
Yeah.
too. Like it's going to absolutely force this horse to just go from way out there. And if you look at the race and you go, oh, okay, well, the horse finished 3rd, but he was beaten 9 lengths in that race. The winner won by 9. Johannes. Like you never see a horse win a 6 furlong turf sprint by 9 lengths like that. This horse absolutely freaked, ran off the page, and earned an 88 Beyer speed figure in doing so. And our horse Phosphorescence was in a battle for the 2nd and 3rd spot. Like literally lost a photo
Right. With
for
the 3.
2nd. Yeah. And Phosphorescence showed speed, probably needed the race. First time for McCarthy. Now you're going 2nd time for the barn, 2nd time over this track. You're getting Lasix for the first time. You got the outside draw, so we're going to gun and hopefully get a length on this field early. Let's catch a flyer with Phosphorescence. That's the official law professor lock of the week as our boy law professor is heading towards a stakes. We'll be talking about him next weekend, right?
Is he going to be Pegasus?
I think so, right? Yeah. I think
he's nominated to both
Yeah.
the turf and the dirt race. So we'll see where
I know
ends
where
up.
Barry would enter him. I know where Barry
Oh,
would enter
yeah.
him in that
On
turf.
the
There's no
turf.
2 ways about it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
especially
And-
now with Colonel
Colonel
Liam
Liam
out.
retiring. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah, that's
that-
a weak. That could be a really weak field that he
You're
could
right.
capitalize on.
And
Yeah.
that's a little bit of a tease because we'll be talking about those races next week here on this show. And Barry's also going to join me because they draw those races really early, which I
Sunday.
love, which
Yeah.
is awesome. Like big days when you draw races early, or some tracks like Fairgrounds, Gulfstream's doing it now too, where they're getting their entries out way early. Just makes it easier for us handicappers. We can promote the races. We can dive in. It's just going to make more money come into the pools, come race day. So fellas, I look forward to talking to Pegasus with you guys next week, but I look forward to a lot of winners for us this weekend at Gulfstream, at Santa Anita, and at Laurel. Matt, I know you have a lot of great work going on the Win Play Show. Talk to us about anything that you have up for this weekend.
Yeah, so if you go to my Twitter handle at Failed to Menace, you can find, I just released this morning my Capping the Card, where I go through all 14 races at Fairgrounds, give my top pick, my top value play for that. And that's a fun card. 7 of the 14 races maiden special weights. So there's a lot of projection there. If you want to play any sort of a sequence at Fairgrounds this weekend, definitely make sure to check that out, because those maiden special weights are spread throughout the card. And so getting ready for Lecomte Day and the Run for the Roses. So have that up, and, have some, way too early top 10 contenders for the Kentucky Derby, all sorts of fun stuff up there on my Twitter handle at Failed to Menace.
And with Barry, you can check out
Big
Big
Mondays.
Monday,
Big
Going
Monday.
in Circles podcast. Talk to us about that, Barry, and anything else you've got going on.
Yeah, Big Monday, every Monday/Tuesday. Going in Circles podcast. You can hit
It's
us
so
up
big, it
on
goes over
Twitter.
into 2 days.
Yeah, it's
Right?
2 days. Yeah.
It's long. It's usually long. I gotta admit.
What's the in Friends? Joey's going through. He says, "Yeah, Monday, one day, Tuesday, Wednesday, what day? Thursday, the third day."
Third
Like,
day.
He's talking about how third day, and they're all just looking at him like, "What the hell, man?" Yeah. Shout out to Joey Triviani. Right there.
Yeah,
And-
man. So yeah, we're doing a lot of stuff, and then I'm gonna be doing some work at Tampa Bay coming up in
Nice.
February. So
Awesome.
you'll
Love
see me around. We're laying
Very
low
good.
right now until the end of the year, or
That's
the
a-
end of this month, and then February we're gonna be ramping up all the way
That's a-
through April.
By the
Good.
way, I was thinking about your boy Chuck Simon last night, Barry, because I saw Knicks point guard
Oh,
Jalen Brunson wearing a Philadelphia Eagles jersey to
yeah.
the game last night, which
Jinx.
is just fighting words, because the Eagles are playing the
Jinx.
Giants this weekend in the
Yeah.
playoffs. And
No good.
but Jalen Brunson, South Jersey Villanova kid, repping the hometown team. So gotta love him.
yeah, he needs to go somewhere with that nonsense.
Yeah, that's not the place in New York when you play that either, right? Like you go, that's
Love
like-
it.
Yeah.
Level of trolling elite. And
Well, fellas, another awesome Friday in the books. Thanks so much to everyone for hanging out with us every Friday morning. We'll be back again next week on Friday, 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. Thanks so much, Jake, for tweeting along and putting the gifts out there. Thanks so much to Stable Duel for putting on these awesome contests for us to play in. Thanks to the Daily Racing Form for allowing us to dive into the past performances in the DRF Formulator. We hope we've led you to some winners throughout the weekend. And right now, you get to hear that beautiful sound, those pipes of Joey Cleveland and the Stable Duel theme song. Take it away, Joey.
Better. You want to spread your pony knowledge wide. Oh, better. I got a place where winning ain't tough to do. You wanna be cool, stable too.